Hi, I'm Philip Campbell, and in the next couple minutes I'll share with you 4 simple rules you can put to work today to create cash flow projections you can trust. Because nothing is more vital and important to your success in business than your cash flow and knowing what you expect your cash balance to be over at least the next 6 months. But cash flow projections is an area people tend to struggle with, right? They get caught up in the thought that they don't know exactly what's going to happen in the future, so they think, how could I possibly predict what's going to happen with my cash flow over the next 6 to 12 months? What you need to do is step back a bit and consider some common sense ways just to be close. A little rational thought and using the principles I'm about to teach you will make them far easier than you ever thought possible. It also helps to have a great tool to help you make the process even easier. The software I use is called Survivalware, and it's one of the most powerful financial analysis and improvement tools available on the market. I use it every day now to help business owners make more money and put more cash in the bank where it belongs. And I know that sounds like a very strong statement, but it's true. It has incredibly strong graphing and dashboard features, so trends and problems literally jump off the screen at you. Okay, rule number 1 is that the near future almost always looks a lot like the recent past. So in Survivalware you can see information as numbers or graphs. I like to see a graph of historical results because it provides me with instant insight about recent trends in the business. I can see real fast what's been going on with any particular component of a company's financial result. For example, if the revenue trends have been looking like the chart above, then they'll probably look something like that in the future. And if the accounts receivable trend has been looking like the chart above, then it'll probably look something like that in the future. All right, you get the point. But one of the biggest mistakes people make in creating their projections is they like to start with a clean slate. Right? Then they create the projections without realizing that they've just unhooked themselves from reality. It becomes more of a wish than a plan of what's most likely to happen. That's why the first step in completing your cash flow projections is to import your financial statements real fast into Survivalware because it does all the work for you. You can also use the spreadsheet approach that I teach in my book, Never Run Out of Cash. But whichever approach you use, having your actual results in front of you for the last 6 months or more gives you a crystal clear view into each component of your cash flow. That one step alone goes a long way to helping you create cash flow projections you can trust. And in Survivalware, this process is incredibly powerful. Here's an example where I create a sales projection for a company. Now take a look at this sales projection and tell me if you think it's reasonable. The really cool thing in Survivalware is we push a button to see a graph, and now we have our projections in green and our actuals in blue right next to each other. Look how easy it is to see the disconnect from reality that I was referring to. And there's actually 2 big problems with this projection. First is sales are going up almost $4 million in the first month of the projections. And second, the projection shows sales going up consistently each month. But that trend is not at all consistent with the recent past. The actual results show that there's a lot of seasonality to this business. And you can bet that the seasonality of the business is not going to just magically disappear. So in Survivalware, we click on the quick and simple forecast icon, choose last year plus our expected increase, and now we have a sales projection that is much more realistic. The huge jump in the first month of the projection is gone, and the seasonality of the business is now reflected in the projections. Rule number 2 is to consider what's changing. This is where you stop to consider what's changing in the business that will influence results going forward. Maybe you just landed a big new customer, you recently opened a new plant, you just hired a new executive into a brand new management role, or your raw material costs are going up big time. You want to consider all those things that are new or different that you need to factor into the projections. Rule number 3 is to be conservative with your projections, because one thing about a projection you can be certain of, it will not be perfectly accurate. You can be 100% certain that the actual results will vary at least somewhat from what you project. The trick is to get close, but to err on the side of being conservative. It's like meeting someone for lunch. Right? You agree to meet a good friend at a restaurant at 12 noon. You set 12 as the time to meet, so you'll both be there at about the same time. You set a specific time so there is no confusion. But despite the precise time you set, you know that both of you are not going to show up at exactly 12. The only question is whether you'll be a little late or a little early. And it's the same with your projections. Your estimates will not be perfectly accurate. But despite that, you still have to pick a number that you think will be close. What's important is to be close and to err on the side of being conservative. With cash flow projections, you want to miss the balance on the low side. That way the surprise is pleasant rather than unpleasant. Rule number 4 is to use a smell test. Right? You want to give those projected cash balances a smell test. And it's a quick way I use to make sure everything smells right. It's a way to check that nothing unusual or unexpected has made its way into your numbers. And it's like picking up a gallon of milk from the refrigerator. It's not a bad idea to give it the quick smell test to make sure you're not about to pour yourself a glass of soured milk. on the assumption that it's better to smell a problem in advance than taste it in the present, right? Do the projections make sense given your intuition and knowledge of the business? You want to make sure the projections are error-free and that it passes the smell test. The last thing you want to do to yourself or your business is make business decisions on a faulty projected cash balance. Okay, you just saw a very brief summary of the power of the Survivalware software to help you create cash flow projections. Trust me, though, you've only seen a small example of how this software will help you take control of your business. Survivalware helps put you back in control by putting the super important cash flow information at your fingertips. So I know your gut right now is telling you you need to create your cash flow projections today. And to make that easier for you, I've arranged for you to download Survivalware for 30 days absolutely free and at no obligation. And to help you even more, I'll give you a free copy of my book, Never Run Out of Cash, when you download your free trial of Survivalware.